Hello, friends, viewers. Welcome back to this episode in conversation with Dr. Raja Amarnath. I hope you have seen my earlier video. This is going to be more of talking to Dr. Raja Amarnath on asking questions, which some of you have already posted to me. And welcome, Dr. Raja Amarnath, sir, for taking your time out to participate in this conversation. Sir, some of our viewers have posted a few questions. I thought I will take question one by one. This question is, what would you feel in terms of the differences between the earlier deadly viruses? In fact, I was Googling it before I came here for shoot. And I found that 12 deadly viruses have been attacked so far in the mankind. And I think this is the 13th deadly virus. So what is the kind of difference you find between the earlier viruses, deadly viruses, and COVID-2 or COVID-19?
There are two fundamental differences. One is the virulence of the virus. Virulence means how aggressive the virus is in attacking the human system, either an organ or a whole body, somehow escaping the human immune protection and ultimately leading to death. That is one aspect. A virulent virus may not be a dangerous virus as far as the population is concerned, if the spread is less. See, for example, HIV virus. HIV virus spreads from human to human only by the either blood to blood or by means of sexual contact. Even there it is blood to blood. That is how HIV spreads. Some sort of hepatitis B virus, it also comes through blood to blood. These viruses, when they were found, they were virulent until the treatment was found for them. And when we came to know the mode of transmission and we educated the society, as the society could understand and then the mode of transmission was curtailed, the major burden on the population per se, we could control it. So, that is one aspect, virulence of the virus. Second aspect is the mechanism of transmission of the virus. For example, if you look at our current virus, SARS-CoV-2 virus, okay, or coronavirus, there is a family of coronaviruses which can cause mild respiratory illness. This particular virus has a basic small mutation which escapes the basic common innate human immunity barriers. But the difference is the mechanism it spreads is what is devastating, because it can spread very easily. That is why people say a very good virus for biowar. Say what kind of virus you want in biowar? It should be something which once you leave it in one human being, it should not cause a severe illness immediately. If that is the case, the person will die as soon as possible. So, it should stay in the human system for some time, and then the spread should be through respiratory, because that is one thing which is easily transmissible. You see, cholera and all is transmitted from, we call it orophycal. It goes through the fecal matter, and when you consume the water or food which is contaminated, through that you get the infection. Similarly, typhoid, which take a longer time to spread from human to human. It takes time. It is not that easy, and you can contain it faster. Whereas this particular virus spreads through airborne. So, coughing, sneezing, touching, you can get. Second thing, it stays on surfaces for few hours. Some studies they are showing that few days they remain. For example, you say 48 to 72 hours means it is 2 to 3 days. Okay. Third thing is, person will remain healthy as he is transmitting to others. A mild symptoms, but otherwise healthy, but he is potentially a carrier and harmful to others as far as the spread is concerned. So, where the spread will be massive, especially in countries like India, where we have never heard of social distancing, right. You go to our cities, especially the crowded places, it takes one day to spread to thousands to even lakhs of people across the country.
Correct.
Just one day. So that is what is scary with coronavirus. But as such, virus is not that bad compared to other viruses. The virulence part. It does cause respiratory system damage and pneumonia kind of symptoms. And in people who are vulnerable, it also affected and caused deaths.
Correct.
But the way it spreads is what is really scary.
Scary. Well said, well said. I have another question connected to this, doctor. Most of these viruses are, I don't know, almost all the viruses are actually originated from animals or birds. Am I right? Is my understanding correct?
Correct.
So, how the whole thing is happening? Because of people who take food, typically like non-vegetarian, they go and take animals or any bird related dishes. That is how it is actually getting originated, or it also can come from plants and vegetarian foods. I am talking about the food aspect of the origination.
I don't say war, but see this intimacy versus the danger with animals has been there since origin of the human race. We both of us have been living on this planet, sharing our part of the nature and living together as such. And both of us have our own enemies. Humans have their own diseases, animals have their own diseases, even the plants have their own problems and diseases. That is why we use pesticides and other things, because for plants, to make them survive from the microorganisms, that invade. And there is this other world called microorganisms. For them, we are the nature for them. I also wonder, especially in my graduation days, I used to wonder when we read about these microorganisms. For a simple microorganism, human cell is its home. It goes inside, it somehow tries to manage the cell, it dictates terms, and somewhere it starts replicating. Especially virus does like that. Bacteria, of course, they only replicate themselves slowly. They take the food and nutrition from the human body and do it. In one way, if you look at it in a different, different angle, paradigm shift, to say how we colonize the earth is how they colonize human body, isn't it? They go different parts, like how we go to different parts of the world and settle down. All of us have some preferences, right? Some people, they want to live in nice river bay areas, where there are more of trees, nature. Some people would like to be in apartments in a city life. Some people want to go retire in village areas. Like that, for viruses, probably in our body, certain organs are for them, they have more affinity for those organs. But correct, for them it is a choice of their survival. They want to live, they want to increase their race, they want to spread their race. That is all. They do what is natural for them.
I am able to feel your empathy towards them.
It is not empathy, it is if you properly understand why these things are happening. Although we take these microorganisms as enemies, that is of course true, but for them, they do it because they want to survive. Because of their survival, here human body is getting affected, so we have to use our antiviral drugs and other things to save our body, isn't it? But where is this balance getting broken? For example, they are living in animal kingdom, right? So, wherever the interaction between man and animal are beyond a question, beyond a barrier. So, you see LOC, wherever this LOC is crossed, there you get so intimate to that part of the animal kingdom, you catch some of the viruses from there. So that is how, like, so for example, from rats, from bats, from birds, okay, from cattle, from camels. But once they come, if you see, they just like that wipe out the entire civilization. If you look at all the deaths caused by all these pandemics, even both the world wars did not cause 10% of that destruction.
Actually, you helped me to go to the next question. In fact, you have given a wonderful cue to me. That was actually my next question, actually. See, there are two words normally now people are being regularly used in their webinars, in our talks, in our conversation. One is about pandemic, another one is about epidemic. What is the difference?
There are few words like endemic, epidemic and pandemic. Epidemic means when the disease outbursts beyond a limited level and it starts affecting the regional level of population. For example, you take the example of, let us say, swine flu, H1N1. So it started at one place, okay. Normally it should affect few people and then it should stop there. Whereas it becomes out of proportion and the numbers become per day, the identifiable cases per a specific time period. You can say per day or per week, the number is slowly increasing. So the spread is accelerating, against the time the speed is increasing, then you call it epidemic. But an epidemic is limited to that region, either in a state or a country or even a continent. You call it the epidemic in that state or epidemic in that continent, epidemic in that country. When it crosses those boundaries and when it becomes a threat to the entire world, then you label it as pandemic. That is when, if you have noticed, until WHO announced that this is a pandemic, many countries were not worried about it. They were cool. They were thinking that okay, China got affected, maybe the surrounding countries would get affected. No one would have thought probably that somewhere in Italy and Brazil or America would get affected. So hardly. So pandemic means it affects the entire globe. That is when you call it pandemic.
International, actually. Yes. That's why they say, people say that it is, we are facing the World War III, where the entire world across the globe fighting with somebody who is actually unseen, unknown, invisible.
Correct.
So that's wonderful. So wonderful to learn something about these terminologies for a common man to understand. And going forward, I'd like to ask you one question. With that, I would like to end this episode of short video. Since you are very busy with your own schedule, I don't want to take much of your time, so I can often come back to you taking your interview as an episode, kind of a series. So final last question somebody asked me is to check with you, or as our human intelligence failed in identifying this virus when it broke out first time in Wuhan?
There are different ways of looking at it. I would say they have identified it fast enough. But whether people have taken it serious enough is one question. Second thing is, if you see the last 20 years, here and there have been viruses coming out. I would say what the reactive and proactive, there are two words people always say. Currently in the last 21st century, as far as these viruses or the healthcare related things are concerned, human beings have been mostly reactive rather than proactive. Something which had occurred just 18 years ago now changed its shape and form and then again is attacking the world like this. Whereas we have always been concentrating on weapons, wars, artificial intelligence, mobiles, software, internet, entertainment. Human intelligence is there, but it is not in the right direction, because our reaction has been very good. See, 100 years ago when Spanish flu came, the way we responded, the world responded was different. Now we are more aggressive, more advanced, fast, and we are putting those lessons into practice well. This advanced mode of the communications have helped us a lot. Today we are able to learn whatever the America or US and Italy, the lessons from their medical lessons, deeper aspects of ICU management. In 24 hours we are getting updated. But I would say this is all reactive, no? Okay, for ICU care it may be proactive here, but still having seen the last 20 years of history, everywhere here and there zoonotic diseases are propping up like this. Probably the scientific forum and political forum should sit together and then exchange their ideas and then see how to prevent these things first of all. Somewhere I also feel very strongly, of course being a doctor, I should not say that I should stick to only healthcare, no. As a human being we also will have some insights, right. So I would say that somewhere nature barriers are being breached by our actions. I am not talking philosophically saying somebody is punishing us, no, not that. I am only saying that even scientifically also somewhere we are making mistakes which has to be rectified.
Maybe we have gone overboard on many things.
Probably.
That's really wonderful, and you narrated beautifully. You shared more about virus origination from 6th century to 21st century. Then you talked about the pandemic and epidemic differences and how the virus is being originated from different sources of life. It's fantastic, covering all the wide spectrum of knowledge you have, and I think it's going to be a good insight for the viewers of this episode. And thank you very much, doctor. And I'd like to ask you the final question on this episode is how have you been doing your Sipaka ICU services in this tough time?
Well, all the doctors and nurses are now geared up to fight the battle because what we have seen during this lockdown is nothing. It is the silence before tsunami. Because people say before tsunami, if you are on the beach, if you see that water is retrieving itself, it is going back, then when it is receding itself, it means it is a dangerous sign. So I don't want to create panic among people, but it is a caution that the numbers will certainly rise after the lockdown is over.
Oh, okay.
And the cases will rise, and we are preparing ourselves for that.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Raja, for taking your time to share all this information. So I'd like to come back to you more and more because a lot of questions people are asking us through WhatsApp and other medium of communication. This video is also being uploaded in our channels. So viewers, thank you very much for watching, and I'll write back to you with one more episode with Dr. Raja Amarnath with more questions. Please comment right below this video. Post your questions, whatever you want me to ask Dr. Raja Amarnath, I will ask on behalf of you. Thank you, Dr. Raja, and thank you every one of you who are watching this episode. Thank you so much. Take care.